De lo que el Babilón yo digo pueda pagar. El agua es la razón por la cual van a pelear. Todos los países desde aquí hasta Afganistán.
Zona Marginal, singing Guerra por Agua, War for Water. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. 8 of the nation's largest water providers, from California to New York, have announced the formation of a coalition to develop strategies on dealing with climate change. The members of the newly formed Water Utility Climate Alliance together provide water to more than 36 million people in the United States. The groups developed a list of goals that include expanding climate change research, developing strategies for adapting to climate change, and identifying greenhouse gas emissions from individual operations. Today, we're going to spend the rest of the hour looking at the global water crisis. Flow, for Love of Water, is a new documentary screened here in New York last night. The film examines how the world's water supplies are diminishing and how the privatization of water is worsening the crisis.
For the longest time, people have taken water for granted. Most people don't think about where their water comes from. They just turn on the tap and they expect it to be there. Those days are ending.
This notion that we'll have water forever is wrong. California's running out. It's got 20-some years of water. New Mexico's got 10, although they're building golf courses as fast as they can, so maybe they can whittle that down to 5. Arizona, Florida, even the Great Lakes now, there's huge new demand.
The Nile River doesn't reach its end. The Colorado River, the Yellow River in China, they, for the most part, don't flow anymore to the sea.
So this notion that somehow these problems are far away, get rid of that. You know, take it out of your head, you know, delete that.
We're treating the water resources of the planet with contempt, which is just so stupid because we depend on them. We need water to live. We'll only survive for a day or two if we don't have water.
Scientists, through decades of study and millions of pieces of data, now recognize the fact that we're on the brink of the 6th great mass extinction ever to be experienced on the face of Earth. The 5th mass extinction was the dinosaur age.
You know those movies where there's the comet coming at the Earth and all of a sudden the governments of the world say, gee, our differences aren't so big anymore because we're about to all die? That's really where we are. There is a comet coming at us. It's called water shortage.
Climate change is a real problem. Humans are changing the climate. We already see evidence about it. One of the most significant impacts of climate change will be on our water resources.
We're going to see a lot of people are going to die because of the floods and droughts and various social upheavals that are caused by global warming. What's also tragic is that there's a lot of awareness of that now, but so much of that awareness is then being used by corporate interests. Oh, we're running out of water and we need to invest so much money in water and it's so terrible how water is managed, and then somehow they make the flip to, oh, we must privatize it so then we'll use it more efficiently and everybody will be better off. Which is total nonsense, total utter nonsense. I mean, it's mainly these people have an interest clearly in making money out of selling water to people.
There are private corporate interests that have decided that water is going to be put on the open market for sale. It's going to be commodified and treated as any other saleable good.
Water is now a $400 billion global industry, the 3rd largest behind electricity and oil.
I bought the green, I have the blue, and I have about half of the yellow.
The market is amoral, and it's going to lead you to taking advantage of pollution and scarcity, frankly. It's going to lead you to selling to those who can buy it and not to those who need it.
The water sector is going to grow at 2 to 3 times the global economy over the next 20 years. By buying the companies that source, treat, distribute, and monitor our water supply, you're likely to have a pretty strong investment over the next decade or so.
People say that, well, water's a lot like air. Do you charge for air? Of course not. You shouldn't charge for water. Well, okay, watch what happens.
An excerpt of the documentary Flow, that's F-L-O-W, for Love of Water, by filmmaker Irina Salina. The documentary features one of the leading figures in the global water justice movement, Maude Barlow. She's the head of the Council of Canadians, Canada's largest public advocacy group, founder of the Blue Planet Project. Maude Barlow is author of 16 books. Her latest just came out. It's called Blue Covenant, the global water crisis and the coming battle for the right to water. Joining us now in our Firehouse studio. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Talk about the crisis? Where has all the water gone?
Well, I guess the most important thing I want to put out to the world is that we always hear that climate change, and that is greenhouse gas-induced climate change, is affecting water, which is true, melting glaciers and all of that. But I am, with this book, trying to put a new wrinkle, if you will, into the whole debate. It's kind of, I call it the inconvenient truth of water, and that is that our abuse, pollution, misplacement, displacement, and just mismanagement of water is actually one of the causes of climate change, and it's a really different kind of way of looking at it. Very simply, I mean, the story is that as we have polluted the world's surface water, we are taking water from the ground, from groundwater, or from wilderness, or from watersheds, and we're moving it where we want it to be. So to water great big huge cities that then dump it into the ocean, so don't return it to the watershed, or we pave over what's called water retentive lands, so we don't have the hydrologic cycle able to fulfill its responsibility and bring water back. We're doing something called virtual water trade, which is where we use our water to grow or produce something that then is exported. In the United States, you export a third of your water, domestic water, every day out of the United States in terms of these exports. You don't have enough water to do that. And
who exports it?
Mainly large agribusiness. It's mainly commodities and corporations that are using this water to export massive amounts of commodities. But all sorts of countries are doing it. Australia's doing it. Australia's hit the water wall, and Australia is absolutely in crisis right now, and they're still exporting massive amounts of water through virtual water, say, to China. So the question is here, we will all learn somewhere back in school that it's impossible for us to interrupt the hydrologic cycle. Not true. The hydrologic cycle has been dramatically and deeply affected by our abuse and displacement of water, and we have to stop.
Explain who the corporations are and how they get their hands on this water. In the film and in your book, you talk about this. I mean, there's the struggle in Michigan. There's the companies in California that get the water for free. Yeah. Explain how it happens and sell it for...
Basically, if there was lots of water, it wouldn't matter, I suppose, if some people were getting wealthy from it. But the fact is that we're living in a world of diminishing water. We're actually running out, and I want to make this point so clearly, and you're running out in many parts of the United States. It is not cyclical drought. This is the end of water in many parts of the world unless we change our behavior. Just last week, there was a report that came out that Lake Mead may be gone in 13 years. This is the big backup system for Las Vegas and Phoenix. I mean, this is crisis. The Colorado is in catastrophic decline, is the language of one scientist, and we need to understand this isn't cyclical drought. So if this is the case, and it is the case, then the question of who owns and controls water is very important. Who's going to make the decisions around water in the future? And what's happened is that a large number of corporations are now coming into the field saying, actually creating a kind of global water cartel, just as there exists for energy now, a cartel of corporations that control every drop of oil before it's taken out of the ground. These companies are either big utility companies like Veolia and Suez from Europe, that run municipal water systems on a for-profit system, and in the third world they deny millions of people who can't afford it. There's also bottled water. We put something like 50 billion gallons of water in plastic bottles around the world last year, dumping those bottles everywhere.
That they're not biodegradable.
Mostly not biodegradable. About 95% of them don't get recycled. But the newest corporate player on the block is the whole water reuse and recycling industry, and this is the biggest water company in the world is probably General Electric now. Who knew, right? Dow Chemical.
General Electric, which owns NBC.
Which owns, yes.
Among many other companies.
And is now getting heavy duty into the water recycling industry. Now, let me be very clear. There's a very important place for water recycling, of course. And we've got to...
What is water recycling?
Water recycling is either toilet to tap recycling of water, or there's now, or desalination.